Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and in this video I want to talk about something that I think I mention a lot, and sometimes I use these terms side project and side farm interchangeably, and I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to make sure that I clearly define what those are, and some side projects and or farms that you can be working on right now to benefit your account. So make sure you guys like and subscribe, leave your comments, let me know your thoughts, and we're going to give huge shout outs to my channel members right now. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. There is a shout out here for Clockley, who recently jumped up to the Jedi Master level. I just have not updated this tracker, so Clockley, I have seen it. I really appreciate it. I did want to give you a special shout out here. So guys, if you're interested, join channel memberships. Again, link down below. Otherwise, let's get into our video and let's talk about some side farms. All right, so let's talk about side farms and side projects. What is the difference? So for my current examples, I'm currently farming Seer Junda and Zori Bliss. Those two characters have nothing to do with my current goal in the journey guide of Galactic Legends Leia, right? They have no bearing on that. However, I'm farming their shards in preparation for whenever I do eventually go after their, desired teams. My side project is Reva. When I unlock Third Sister, she has nothing to do with Leia, but I will be throwing all gear, Zetas, Omicrons, mods, all of that will go towards her. So the reason I bring that up, the reason I kind of mention it like that is the difference between that project and farm is that where a project, you're investing gear, you're investing much more than just, energy to farm the shards, that you're preparing yourself to relic that character or take them to a certain gear place and stop. That's what a project is. There's a little bit more involved to it than just farming shards to get that character to 7-star, where you're preparing yourself that eventually they'll turn into a project, but you're not ready for that yet. So that is the difference between a project and a farm. Again, project, you're going to be equipping gear, you're making that next step of investment. A farm is just something that you're trying to get to 7-star and then move on. So that is that. Now, what are some things that you can work on now? These are mine. I'm working on Marin, Seer, Tusken Chieftain, and Zori. Those are my side projects right now. Or side farms, projects, because some of them have gear. So that's me right now. Again, just examples for the current thing. That Leia's the goal, so I am farming Rex. As the rest of Leia's requirements would come into play here, as Nisa and Drogon and Scout Trooper become farmable, that's when I'll stop doing some of these side farms in order to switch my gear, my focus towards these characters here. That's when these characters kind of start coming into the forefray or coming into the fray. And these guys will kind of go onto the back burner until I'm done with that farm. And then it's back onto these guys. If you're a newer player coming into the game, or you're, a long-time player, Beskar Gideon is coming in Conquest. And I would be preparing your Imperial Remnants, because if he's a good character, you're going to want to have these characters farmed. You're going to want to have these characters that, hey, I've got them 7-star. I can make this team really, really good. Even if you wanted to take some of those earlier ones like Death Trooper and Stormtrooper to like Gear 10, Gear 11, even Gear 12, it's not that hard to do. They don't need Kyrotech. But this is a team that again, not all of these are going to be used in that team. We don't know. But prepare those Imperial Remnants that when Gideon comes into the game, you want to be prepared that if it's a top tier team, you want to at least have something. And as a backup plan, Iden. Because let's say Gideon comes in and he's like Trench, where he's just kind of lackluster. This team is unbelievably good under Iden Versio. So if you farm Iden in the background, not only are you getting a great ship, she's a great pilot, but her team is really good. And these three characters right here are amazing with her. So this is an example for like players at all levels of the game right now. A bunch of these are going to be used in the raid, have uses outside of that, but more importantly, they all kind of, work together to, create that common goal. Again, Dark Trooper and Moff Gideon kind of going under the General Veers team right now. We don't know, pretty sure we know in the future that Dark Trooper is going to stick with Veers, but we're not sure where Gideon kind of fits in. But Iden being your backup plan with, the Imperial Remnants hopefully going under, new Beskar Gideon. Now, because we're getting Beskar Gideon, that kind of means that we're getting Mando Season 3 characters. And if that's the case, I would be very, very optimistic that we're going to get some more Mandalorian characters. Which means that the armor could come back into the fray as an extremely important character. And I think if I'm Capital Games, of course, they're going to time this so that way the Crate Dragon Raid goes around, and hey, there's new Mandalorian characters that you have to go get and invest in because now they're an amazing team outside of the raid. That would be the Capital Games thing to do. So Armorer is a character that if you're thinking of, hey, what something I could kind of farm on the side, at least get ready for, she'd be a good one. And then Sabine, we have the Ahsoka series going on right now. Sabine is probably the least farmed Phoenix character, because for the longest time, she was the only one on a hard node, and now she's on a hard node, but so is Hera, and Hera's the leader, so you really need Hera in that, more than you do Sabine. So I think that Sabine is a really good shout as someone that, if you're not, sure, hey, what's a project I could maybe start farming, just putting in some, energy, she would be a really good character to think about, because I just have a feeling that either she's going to be really important in the new Phoenix squad with, Captain Rex, or she's going to fit into a whole different team and you're going to want to use her. Again, I'm just spitballing here. This is not, this is definitely a bit more like, I don't know what's going to be happening, but, the signs are here that if we're getting Mando Season 3 characters, let's start preparing that we may be getting some new Mandalorians and need to make some more teams. Which, going along that line, I have the deep fake of Gar Saxon and Imperial Super Commando. These ones are a little bit different because Gar Saxon is in the Cantina, and with Cantina characters, I kind of disqualify them as being a side farm or, side farm especially. I think a project you could make the argument, but a side farm they really can't count because your Cantina energy should only ever be going towards signal data or whatever your current farming objective is. I don't really think you can afford to just be farming things in the Cantina because it's fun. Like, if you're farming something in Cantina, I expect you to take that thing to relics. Like, that's just the way I am. But these are two characters that are Mandalorian, and they're Empire. And with Beskar Gideon, what if he gets a Mandalorian tag along with the Empire tag and has special synergy with Empire Mandalorian characters? All of a sudden, these two guys who are probably some of the least geared Empire characters in the game, and they have a very good ship too. Don't get me wrong, they have a very good ship. This would be a worthy side project. Now, I feel less confident about these two than I do Armorer and Sabine, but worth noting, again, this is exactly what like a side farm is. It's just something that, hey, you know what? It's not really going to help whatever I'm currently doing, but it's preparing me that if something happens, I can be ready for it, and it's going to give you a decent Empire ship for these two. So that is something I did want to throw out here for the masses. Now, if you're a late to endgame player, I 1000% think you need to start thinking about Cal Ripken Sr. This is because so many players and guilds are going to have a 7-star Reva. And we're going to be looking for, hey, well, what's the next thing that's going to help us? And the answer is Jedi Knight Cal and the characters to get guild event currency 3. I think a lot of guilds are going to start seeing this and saying, you know what? This is going to be the new Inquisitors. Everybody was, do you have Inquisitors to be able to do the Reva mission? Now it's going to be, do you have Jedi Knight Cal to be able to do the bonus zone and earn us additional rewards? Now, I'm not saying we're there yet, but I think in the coming months, we're going to start seeing a shift in this game at that late and end stage where all of a sudden these characters are going to become that gateway to those higher power guilds. So this is something that if you start just working on a little bit of it at a time here, you chip away at it. Hey, I'm going to farm this character, I'm going to farm this one, I'm going to work here, going to work there. You're prepared that it's not the end of the world if guilds start requiring this. So that is something I did want to include for my late to endgame players. It's a team I would definitely be looking at. Again, for all players, at all levels, these characters right here are what I would be kind of recommending in terms of preparing for Beskar Gideon and also kind of getting yourself ready for that new raid with a really solid team. Now, if we keep moving down here, there's 3 characters I want to talk about for the current GLs that I think are kind of like the strongest GLs in terms of synergy. So, Coors Light Leia, you need her for both Jabba and Galactic Legends Leia. She's also accelerated now, and there's currently bonus drops going on as of the time of recording. If you're unsure of whether you want to go for Jabba or whether you want to go for Galactic Legends Leia, going after someone like Coors Light Leia with your bonus energy right now is genius, right? If you have any extra energy, just throw it towards her. It's a brilliant move. Do you know why that's going to be so important? Is you can't go wrong. If those are your 2 options, you're like, okay, I'm going to get Executor, and I don't know if I'm going to go for Jabba or Leia next. Farming her is a win-win either way. She's needed for both and at the same relic level, so you can't even waste gear on her. Another character that's needed for 2GLs being 3PO and Chewie, who you need for both Jedi Master Luke and Galactic Legends Leia. The other thing with 3PO and Chewie is he's such a core member of that Commander Luke Skywalker team that any gear invested in him is not wasted. So, I mean, eventually use him for a GL. But even if you're not sure which one you're going to go for, if you get him to like gear 11, gear 12, not throwing crazy, relics on him, he's still a solid character and providing a lot of good synergy to that Commander Luke Skywalker team. And then finally, Jedi Knight Luke. And I know a lot of you are going to say, Phil, you can't, side project Jedi Knight Luke. You can't side farm that. I 100% believe you can, because if you're trying to think of, okay, if you're going for Jabba or Jedi Master Luke, you have to have Jedi Knight Luke. But if you're going after Leia, he's not a requirement. Some of the characters you need for him are required, but he himself isn't. So you start thinking of, okay, I'm going to purchase, Arcane Wampa Shards with this currency. Hermit Yoda with this. I'm going to dedicate these resources to this character here, here, and here. It's a way that you can slowly build up to that point that you're ready to unlock Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker at any point in time. And then he could turn into a side project because he's such a great character. So it is something that you can kind of work on along the way by investing your resources at the right time into the right characters to unlock him along other farms. So I did want to at least mention those 3 characters. There's plenty more that overlap, but those are kind of 3 really big ones right now. The other thing with side farms that a lot of players get wrong, in my personal opinion, is they don't think of the store farms. So the Phoenix Squadron is something that I think has kind of lost a lot of its steam because of Hera going to hard nodes. A lot of players, were kind of discounting them and saying they're not the first starting team. And, they're probably right. It's the way that I, ended up moving mine, right? That I kind of said, hey, you know what? Phoenix is optional at this point. So, but these store farms are really, really good things that you could be, farming on the side, that you don't need to invest gear in these characters. Just get them to 7-star for that eventuality when you do need to invest in them. And I included Phoenix here because they're a team that I think a lot of players are going to be like, oh, when do I really get them? Well, get these guys out of the stores first. Go farm Hera and then figure out when you need to get Ezra. But these, because Zeb is in the, just to show you, right? Zeb is in the Galactic War store here. And we've got Kanan, in the Arena store here, right? And he even shares a node with Ezra in Cantina, which is insane. And I think Zeb is Zeb on a node now as well? Yeah, look, he's on a node in the Cantina too with Talia. And then you've got Chopper here, who's in the Cantina store, right? And is sharing a node on, 1D with Jedi Consular. So a lot of places to get these guys that you don't even need to be farming nodes for, that you can just be buying them out of the store. And then as you progress down the road, you're like, hey, yeah, you know what? Now I'm ready to go after that character. Kanan is even one that if he's sharing that node with Ezra, don't even worry about getting him out of the Arena store. Just farm him and Ezra together when you're ready. But it can also be ships. And this is one that if you really want to set your account apart from everybody else, farm ships on the side. Think of them as like Jedi Knight Anakin Starfighter is a great example of a ship that is a great side farm for a long time. It's one of the first ship nodes, hard nodes you unlock. It's a fantastic ship once you get the Negotiator. And it's one of those that I personally feel that if you don't have this ship, day one you unlock Negotiator, you're going to be in a world of hurt and it's not going to perform nearly as well. So you really want to have that ship. The next character I have here is Fives. Again, he's a pilot, right? He's in that, Cantina store. He even shares a node with his ship there, so you could kind of kill a couple birds with one stone. But it's a really nice side farm to do where you can just kind of build those characters up over time, collect their shards, and then when you're ready to equip gear on them, you can do that. It doesn't need to be right away. Plo Koon, another great example. You can get his ship out of the Galactic War store, the Fleet store. He himself is on a Cantina node, which I'm not a huge fan of. I think you get his shards elsewhere. I'm just not sure where, but a character that his ship is just so vitally important. It doesn't take a lot of gear to make him anything decent, for that ship. It's a reinforcement, but that's what its real use is. But Plo Koon, definitely somebody that you kind of, side farm, build that ship up over time, and then as you get that Negotiator fleet ready to go, start throwing some resources. B1 is a placeholder for Vulture Droid. that the Vulture Droid and Hyena Bomber are two of the most important ships for that Separatist fleet because they're not piloted, right? There's no crew members. So there's no additional investment needed other than farming the shards. That's one of the big reasons why I love those two ships. They don't require you to have to relic anybody else. You just have to farm you just have to farm those ships and you're done. So to me, those are like the perfect kind of side farms where, you know, you get them 7-star, you throw a little bit of, you know, credits into them and you're good to go. And the last example here, I have Sunfok just as kind of like your Geonosian pilots. They're, you know, available kind of all over the place. And so those are kind of some of these like ways that I look at side farms. It doesn't always need to be stuff for Galactic Legends or, you know, legendary characters either. I'm just, you know, picking a couple. But it can be things just to help, you know, flesh out your account a little bit and make it a lot more difficult for opponents to face you in GAC, and then lighten the load that as you continue to progress, you have more and more things to use. I think one of the big things, as I've said, you know, in previous videos that has set me apart was that like I've side farmed all of my ships. That I don't have a single ship that isn't 7-star right now. You know, outside of capital ships. Because over time I've always had one, you know, farming in the side. And now that's put me in a position where I literally have, like when a Marin went to the fleet, you know, store or fleet nodes, just, you know, for example, when she went to fleet nodes, I was only farming gear, so it was super easy for me to switch over to Marin because I've never not had side projects or farms that I could do. And then finally, just, you know, to wrap it up a little bit more of like more examples, my entire resistance outside of Zori is 7-star. Now you look at Holdo and the resistance heroes, and I've never equipped gear onto them. They were all side farms. I just built them up along with other things that I was doing. And now I'm in a position that whenever I feel that I need to get, you know, Galactic Legends Ray, I don't need to worry about farming shards. I can just gear these characters. And that is a huge, if you want like the real, where does this end up leading, and the longer you play this game, this is where you end up at. You've got everything you need in terms of shard wise that you can farm some of those other things and focus just your gearing on a single character. So this is where you end up wanting to be, and you do this by investing in those side farms. So, you know, guys, that's kind of the video, right? You know, these side farms then eventually can turn into projects, and some of them will happen much sooner than others. Like I've had L3 favorited for how long and still have never, you know, geared her up. I mean, my armor has been the same way. I've probably had armor favorited for forever and have never geared her up. Whereas, you know, Iden Versio was a more recent character that I was working on, and then boom, she became a side farm to a side project. So again, this is just kind of the nature of how you can do these things, right? That, you know, that's just some, you know, some teams that I think you could be farming right now, because again, you do want to make sure that you have stuff for the current, you know, what's currently happening in the game. And then you also want to anticipate as best as you can what the new stuff is going to be. So like we couldn't have anticipated that Cal was going to get all of these things in the territory battle. But if you know that your guild's getting Riva and that you're soon going to be like, well, I don't need to be farming anything else from my guild, well, here you go, because you know, get ahead of the curve a little bit, see what you can do, and, you know, look good for your guild officers. So that's the video, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below. As always, make sure you like, subscribe, comment. I love all you. May the force be with you. I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.